Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom, and yes, I am filming in my cat pajamas. Why? Because it's 7:43 at night. My mother died about less than a week ago, and I'm reshooting this. So, um, yeah, this is the 2nd of October, 2023. My mother died. What is today? My mother's heart decided to stop working and not restart again last Tuesday night. So I'm going to film in my cat pajamas because I can. So let's get on this. And yes, I am functioning. It sucks, but I'm functioning. And I still have work to do. Okay, so this is my copy. I did end up buying the entire series since last time I recorded these. So this is going to look different. This is Anne's House of Dreams. That's a cat. Hi, Kendra. That's Kendra. Okay, so this is the paperback edition. So the rest of the books from here that I'm going to be recording, the Anne of Ingleside, which I still need to read, Rainbow Valley, and Rill of Ingleside are going to be from this. And yes, I do have all of them. Hopefully I will read them to my daughter at some point. But she is 4. Kendra, don't climb on me. Okay, let's talk about this book. So this book takes place right after Anne of the Windy Populars. Now, mention this in Anne of the Windy Populars. No, this is Anne. Yes, right after Anne of the Windy Populars. This, and I believe Anne of the Windy Populars, I didn't mention in that video. I'm going to bring up Wikipedia here. Kendra, my cat. Sorry about that. Anne with an E. Anne's House of Dreams. Bring this up. Yeah, this was okay. So Anne's House of Dreams came out in 19. Okay, so this is 1917. Windy Populars was, if I can, I think it's Anne of Ingleside is the other one that comes after this. So yeah, Ingleside, which is the next one, came out in July of 39. So the point of this is that in the original series as she wrote it, this book would have come directly after, this is how Anne's House of Dreams. Would have come after Anne of the Island. So Anne of the Windy Populars, which is the book that technically is, in fact, before this, came out in oh my God. Go back into Anne. Windy Populars came out in blah, 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 blah. 36. So Windy Populars came out in 36, and then obviously, and then Anne of Ingleside came out in 39. So those were put into. So as I said, in the original, this book would have come directly after Anne of the Island. And this book goes directly into Anne and Gilbert getting married. They move to the town of Ingleside. They're renting a home as they look for a house to buy in, I believe, what is the name of it? The town where they move. It has to do with coves. The house is Ingleside. All right, where on earth do they live? Four Winds. It's Four Winds Cove is where they moved to. So the House of Dreams is kind of on the other side of the cove. This is where Gilbert is going to eventually take over his uncle's practice. They're still on Prince Edward Island. They're just in a different place. So this is kind of an interesting book. We have a couple. It starts off, of course, at the garret of Green Gables, where her and Diane are kind of packing because she's getting married. And they get married in that first chapter in the apple groves of Green Gables. So then they move to this house. They meet Captain Jim, who's the lighthouse keeper, and she hears the story of the first bride of Green Gables, who was the teacher's wife, and how I do believe she ended up dying. And then, yeah, this is the schoolmaster's bride. And then they meet Miss Cornelia Brent, who's a single woman. I believe she's in her 30s or 40s, which is considered an old maid. Remember, this is turn of the century. This is Europe. It's Canada. But still, it's that we're in the Edwardian era. So, and moving on. So basically, women got married. Anne was a tad bit of was almost considered an old maid, considering how long her and Gilbert waited to get married. But nonetheless. So then they meet Leslie Moore. Now, it's her story that's kind of a major point. So what went on with Leslie Moore is she married a very poor man and a sailor. And he wasn't exactly the greatest. But he went to sea, and then at first she thought he had died. And supposedly he hadn't, and he had been in Cuba, and he came back basically a child in a man's body. So she's busy taking care of him. And she's very much young. She's very young. She's very much a beautiful young girl. She's very, very shy. Her husband had abusive prior to this. And now he was a man-child. Literally. He had no memory. There was stuff wrong with him. So, and that's kind of in there. You learn more about them. You learn more about Captain Jim. She goes through her life. Let's see. And then a gentleman by the name of Owen Ford comes. He was trying to think if he's a relative of someone. He actually falls in love with Leslie. But they can't obviously do something. The other thing that happens in this book, and the reason I would caution this for younger audiences if you're reading your children aloud, Anne has a stillbirth in this book. So she gives birth to a baby girl, and basically it lives. It's too frail to live. So is that here? I believe it's called. This is a chapter of Lost Margaret. Now Morella comes at some point. The first Christmas they have, Christmas of Four Winds. Rachel Lynde and Morella and Davy and Dora come for Christmas. It's the first time Morella has spent Christmas away from Avonlea. But again, Anne is basically her child. This is her kid. And she is in fact there when Anne gives birth. And it takes Anne a little while to recover physically and emotionally from losing and having to bury a baby. So, but it kind of goes through. Then basically, then you have the issue with uh, Leslie and Gilbert going through a medical book, looking through some information, realizing that there's a surgery in Montreal that could help Leslie's husband and basically bring him back. And Anne doesn't think it is a possibility or not. Anne doesn't think Gilbert should tell her because it's a long shot, but Gilbert does it anyway. So they kind of disagree on that. Leslie decides to go through the surgery, and then you get the massive, interesting surprise. The gentleman that she's been taking care of is not her husband. It's his cousin, who they looked a lot alike. They had gone with each other on this sailing trip. Leslie's husband had died of, I believe, yellow fever in Cuba, and his cousin had left the hospital after his cousin had died, and that's all he remembers. So he goes back to his family, and Leslie is free, and she eventually marries Owen, and then it ends with the politics of Four Winds. Now, there was a gentleman that Anne ran into who had this massive beard in the very beginning. And apparently he's a liberal, as opposed to some of the other people who are conservatives. And yes, that includes Anne, though I have no idea what the heck that means in conservative in early 1900s Canada. But he basically said, if a liberal, he will never shave his beard until a liberal wins, like into one of the seats of government for Prince Edward Island, I believe. So that's what happened. So he shaves off his beard, and him and Miss Cornelia get married. So, and then of course Captain Jim, who's become a friend, crosses the bar, so he dies, and Owen is there to write his memoirs. And I believe the other parts of it is they run into he ends up taking on a young gentleman, I believe this is in this book, and befriending the son of the schoolmaster's wife, schoolmaster's bride, who had originally lived in the house that Anne was living in. But the book ends with them buying one of the other more wealthy women in the harbor. Her husband passes. All her children have moved away. So she's selling her house. It's a decent sized house. It's on the other side of town. But Gilbert decides to buy it. And they are going to start a rather large family, which is what they do. And that is continues in Anne of Ingleside, which I actually need to get back to. You actually get to read. I am trying to deal with stuff that now that I own these and I'm not worrying about the library stuff. I've been catching up on other stuff that's in my list. So that is the end of this review. Again, this is the first book of the series that I would caution reading to younger kids, just because Anne has a stillbirth in this book. And then we're talking about abusive husbands. So, and again, more death. But, you know, there's literally death in every single one of these books. Except for, I think, Anne of the Windy Poplars. There's no death in that one. She loses a baby in this one, and Captain Jim dies in another one. In this one as well. And then Matthew dies in the first book. In the second book, Ruby Gillis dies of tuberculosis, I think. Or maybe that's Anne. I'm mixing things up. I think maybe Ruby Gills. No, Ruby Gills dies in Anne of the Island, not Anne of Avonlea. I don't know if anybody dies in Anne of Avonlea. They might. But that's kind of a thing of life. And yes, I know, cat pajamas. They're comfortable. It's almost 8 o'clock at night. And again, I'm in mourning, though it may not seem like it. Life goes on. I have a 4-year-old. I have to function. I have a cat in my lap. Life goes on as much as I miss my mama. And these books are not connected to my mother. But I don't know if I have anything I'm going to review anytime in the near future for connected to my mother, except for mysteries. All right, let's move on. So that's the end of this review. I will be covering, obviously, Anne of Ingleside, which is the next book, Rainbow Valley, which has to do with her children, and then Rilla of Ingleside, which again is the Anne's children. And then I will go into the short stories after that. So, which is there are 3 sets of short stories. Or maybe there's 4. I have to go through them. Here's my list. And hold down here. The Chronicles of Avonlea, further Chronicles of Avonlea, The Road to Yesterday, and then the Blythes are quoted. So those are the rest of that will finish off our Anne series. And then we will move on to the Boxcar Children. So, and for monthly, and then we'll move on. The next series I'm covering after that is the Wings of Fire. So, film-wise, from what you guys are seeing now, since I am staring at my list. So we are finishing up, this is in March. So this is Women's History Month. Last month was Black History Month. I did some interesting hobbies in January. So this is coming out. So we'll be doing Women's History Month right now. Some of the stuff's already been completed. Then we're following into the Titanic, which is it's April. It's my birthday month. I'll be turning 40 this coming April, which my mother will miss, which, sucks. Because a lot of things will suck. Again, this is October. My mother, we're going to be dealing with a bunch of stuff, which will not affect this channel whatsoever. So, but I like the Titanic. It's interesting. So I'm covering it for my birthday month. Moving on. Then we're going to be covering Angel Island, which is Asian immigration through San Francisco. Then we're going to be covering Ellis Island, which is European immigration through New York, New Jersey. Yeah, it's complicated. The building's in New York. The land is in New Jersey. Yeah, Ellis Island is weird. Moving on. And then we'll be covering food in July, women's inventors in August. I'm doing a deep dive into Beauty and the Beast, which is my daughter's favorite Disney princess, in September. I'm covering space in October because I ran out of creepy stuff and I don't like horror. November, I'm covering the Hindu festival of Diwali. Ran out of Native American stuff. And then I'm covering mysteries in December. And I probably will always cover mysteries in December in honor of my late mother, who loved mysteries, and her birthday would have been, the anniversary of her birth is December 1st, which is also Romanian Independence Day. So I will probably from here on out be covering mysteries every December to honor my mother, because I love my mother. And I miss my mother, and I'm pissed off at her because she's dead. And decided to stop, and she didn't take care of her body. But that's a completely different thing. So like and subscribe, leave a positive comment. And if you have one, I swear I will try to keep my personal life out of these videos. Yes, there is a stack of books behind me. We have a bookshelf problem. We are going to continue to have a further bookshelf problem. In fact, by the time time you guys actually see this, we'll have a major bookshelf problem, because I'm going to a giant book sale in like February. So a couple of other things before I completely sign off. We will be starting actual homeschooling videos come maybe August, September, because we're going to start kindergarten and full-on homeschooling then. Also, keep an eye out for more travel videos. Right now, you guys should be able to see all of my Idaho videos and Texas. We're going to San Antonio, which, as I'm filming this, hasn't happened yet. And then I'm kind of exploring a national park sometime, and due to my mother's passing, is very likely that we will go to Hawaii, because that is where I grew up. And that is not where my mother grew up. My mother grew up in Southern California, but Hawaii was a place that our family loved. And my parents lived there for 15 years. So again, enough with that. Like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one, and check out what I've got, and look forward to more. Thank you.